Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Signals and Symptoms podcast again with my two besties, Edward Marks and Isha, and co hosts. And I'm very, very grateful for Dr. Alan Weiss to join us today. He is an innovative executive physician and pharmacist. And this is not just one of his titles. I mean, he has a proper history of providing innovations to multiple different institutions. And he's going to tell you more about how clinical systems have evolved, what his journey has been, and how we're going to go move forward. I know I have not been doing a lot of updates, but I just want to give you one big update that has really shook the industry from an AI perspective, and that is actually the DeepSeek harness. Those who do not know what harness means, harness is essentially what Claude Code is. Think of the model as a powerful, amazing horse. And the harness is where the horse is actually trained to walk in a way that is proper in terms of this. So, how to get the files, how to get this, how to get that, what is the system prompt that goes into it. That's all goes into the harness. And what DeepSeek did was essentially open source their own complete harness. And not only that, they wrote an 88-page research of why their harness is important. And then most importantly, and the most lovely part of everything is a plugin. And this really changed the game in the industry, that how we're going to see the future. And this is really where we have been discussing, and I will talk to Dr. Weiss about it, what his opinion is about what the Chinese AI industry is doing, what US AI industry is doing, how it impacts clinical AI, because these open sourcing is good and a bad in the situation that where's the moat now? Because Cloud Code lost its moat. Because now I can take the DeepSeek completely open source model with the DeepSeek harness, basically launch my own Cloud Code in 100,000 machine that is going to be ROI with a capex of 100K, but the OPEX over 5 years decreases significantly. And now the whole calculation as a founder of Save Life AI is completely changed in my mind. This was one shocking event, of course, in the industry. And I'm just telling you, it is a wave. It was much better than open sourcing another model, which, by the way, there were 7 models that I'm not going to talk about even open source last week. 5 of them were from China, 2 of them from US, one was from NVIDIA and one from Meta. Finally, Meta is back in the game with Gleamer. But anyways, we are seeing a lot of not just open sourcing and open weighting the model from China, but the whole harness around it is open source with a proper reasoning, 88-page documented discussion, which I never know, because now, really, if I think about it, is Cloud Code, the whole harness is a black box on top of the model being a black box. So there's another thing in my mind, what am I controlling, if I'm controlling anything or not? So it's not just about using it, it's also about understanding it, that how things are going to be moving as we go along. So long story short, this was significant. But now, again, we have had another major discussion, and that is AI going to replace doctors? Let's just be honest. It doesn't matter what you think or what I think or not. It's like this, are you going to use, a car because if you have a horse or buggy or not? I think that discussion is honestly over. The question really here is this? And that is very fascinating that came out. This is a study. Will autonomous AI exceed AI-aided physicians as the best medical care? But within this paper, it's actually much more argued. And by the way, this is from Neil Khosla. So Khosla Ventures has put in practically somewhere between $1 billion to $5 billion betting towards AI physicians. They can say AI-aided physicians now, but their whole core goal, Vinod Khosla has actually openly said multiple times that they are building an AI physician. So the question really is that within this paper through American College, and I think this is a very important read that anyone as a physician should read. And if anyone has any doubt about AI as a physician, this is it. This is the real problem with the paper. When will human physicians start dragging down AI in healthcare?
So wow.
So yeah, I mean, this is insane territory we are. And let me give you another perspective behind it. And I'm glad Dr. Weiss is here with his immense experience. He's going to first. What what exactly we're talking about is this. When Uber first came out, I don't know if you remember, taxi drivers were actually openly assaulting it. Do you remember those days? Uh, that, you know what, we're going to go ahead and assault it because they're going to be part and parcel of this. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I just want to put all of these small pieces into perspective towards today's discussion. And then, of course, we're going to put everything in the show notes. I'm grateful to Morris Abesi. I apologize, Dr. Weiss, for a crappy introduction. I do that for every every. It's just so much you have to discuss. I just don't know how to encapsulate it. So please properly introduce yourself. Tell us what your journey has been, what has been driving you, what is the why behind it, and then we can start the discussion wherever you want to lead us, starting with hopefully some of the stuff I've said today.
First of all, you feel free to call me Alan. There's no reason to use title. It's totally fine. I like to describe myself as a nerd turned doctor. Going back to being a nerd again. I actually have an undergraduate degree in computer science. Spent some years in the pharmaceutical industry, helping create databases and analyze them for the FDA and medical journals. Got me interested in medicine. I got an MBA first, then went to medical school, became an internal medicine physician, and then joined the Cleveland Clinic after I finished my residency in a position that allowed me to tap into all my background. So I practiced about 9 months outpatient, 3 months inpatient, while teaching and helping out with residents and medical student education, but also got really deeply involved in informatics. Epic had just gone in at the Cleveland Clinic. I helped them to optimize it, implement it, and also to find ways that we could use data and the technology to help improve outcomes, whether they were clinical, operational, or financial outcomes. And that kicked off a career of informatics and data and analytics, moving to different institutions around the country. And, I've done all kinds of data analytics and optimization and a lot of work on AI. So that's sort of the quick aspect of my background.
Awesome. That's a great, amazing experience. Harvey, my another bestie, is not here. He asks always this question: why? What drives you today to continue doing it? In terms of where do you see the vision of the technology helping you personally, humanity in general, and what is one thing that basically when you wake up in the morning excites you?
Yeah, so a great question. I mean, I love being able to help people. I love being able to drive outcomes. And for me, being somebody who loves technology, I love using technology as a tool to help in that process. And that's what excites me about it. But I'll tell you that and this kind of goes back into your AI and the potential for an AI doctor. One of the things that I've observed is, and as much as I love the technology and the work that's being done in AI is great, but I also think that the relationship that providers have with patients helps to drive outcomes and helps to improve outcomes. And what I'm always very curious when I read all of these articles that say that AI is going to replace doctors and there'll be all of that, I still believe that fundamentally that medicine involves a relationship. And I realize that may seem a little old school because there's a lot of people out there who just want to call up any doctor they can and get them on a video chat, a video or a chat and try to figure out how to improve their health. But that may not be appropriate in a lot of cases. And that instant satisfaction, instant gratification that people want from that may not be the best for driving long-term outcomes, particularly with chronic care, particularly with an aging population and a lot of elderly. I think that relationship helps in many ways. And I can give lots of examples that are clinical examples that had nothing to do with technology, that had to deal with my understanding and knowledge of the patient and their families to help in the process of delivering and optimizing care. I don't think AI is going to replace that. Where I see AI helping is in all of that administrative work that goes on behind the scenes for being a physician, for helping to identify conditions, for creating treatment options. That's where I think AI is going to help in an augmented way, not in a replacing way.
Alan, I love your philosophy. I have been in the pediatrics world. I was in clinical practice for 15 years, and there is a lot of gaining trust, not just the parents, but also the child. And I can't imagine a pediatric situation where the AI is replacing the pediatrician, because there's so many things that come up that are more behavioral. And I know AI has this vast database of knowledge, and physicians do too. We have to sometimes supplement our knowledge with other resources, but there's something about that relationship and that bond. And when your families trust you, they're more willing to take the steps towards better health. And it's a partnership. I've always told my patients, it's a partnership, and it's a discussion, and it's back and forth. And I love the philosophy of, let's let AI help us find the joy in medicine again. Like, let's help, let's get rid of some of the administrative work that bogs us down, preventing those relationships from being what they used to be in the past or what they could be. Let's get back to that. Let's focus on the relationship between the doctor and the patient. Let's let the AI help us get there.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. And it's so interesting. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and this futurist was talking about how, as opposed to having a in-person appointment a couple times a year, you're going to be checking in with your doctor, and they're going to be responding to you through text and small video chats. And I think about that and I go, well, is that a good thing to have that much contact with your doctor for everything that's going on? I mean, your physician can't handle that, right? And are we creating? Yeah, I mean, are we creating the worried well? Are we by having that kind of like, oh, I need to talk to my doctor now because my toe hurt for like a second, right? I mean, that kind of work or that kind of interaction may create more burden on an already overly burdened healthcare system. It may not be where we want to be. And let's face it, what are we trying to achieve with all of this? We are trying to improve our outcomes, and we're trying to lower our costs. And so far, as I've had this debate with other people, love the promise of AI, but where does AI work in those two objectives? Can we show that AI has truly improved outcomes at a large scale? And has it reduced costs? And right now, I think the jury is out on both of those. And I'd love to hear the comments from the people here.
I'm going to start with Ed. Ed, first of all, again, very grateful that you're always here, and love it that all of this. And thank you for sharing Alan's short videos for work-life balance. Don't show it to my wife, because I don't believe in that anymore. So, Ed, here's the thing, right? AI versus no AI and all of that. But you're let's say a president of a board, a healthcare system, and now your job is to tell people that in 2030 we are going to go ahead and potentially have this. Again, outcomes comes or not, at the end of the day, if you put on your investor hat, the question is, am I going to be able to provide the same care that I need 50 providers? And that's another big freaking physician extenders plus physicians and now AI physicians, to now going to 25 providers and having 50 AI physicians. How do you see that discussion? And it may not happen. The jury is out today, but I tell you right now, I promise you right now, I have the models ready to go today, because I'm stuck with the stupid FDA. We discussed this last time. We're going to FDA breakthrough device designations and everything. I don't see any future that my work should be replaced 80% of the time by an AI. No questions asked, no nothing. So in that context, first of all, give your opinion, and then more importantly, what questions you have for Alan.
Well, yeah, and that video is really great. We're not going to be talking about it today, but
Okay, thank you. Because sometimes my wife looks at my podcasts.
Alan made a profound personal, professional decision that I really admire, and I'll just leave it there as a teaser. So go check out the video. It's only 8 minutes long. It's very concise. It's really good. It's it's something that I think we've all thought about. A few of us had the confidence or whatever, the gumption to actually make the change, and he did. So kudos to Alan. It's really great leadership on the personal, professional side. So, anyways. Yeah, we've had this ongoing conversation. A year ago, when I first came out, I think publicly, and started talking about how just as Uber disintermediated rideshare transportation, so will AI disintermediate traditional PCP. And I think we're watching it unfold. And now more and more people, like at first, the physicians, especially because I'm not a physician, were kind of angry and upset with me and denying. And today, now everyone seems to be talking about it. And I'm at UGM. This is the Epic user group. And last night, so every night, I bring a lot of people together. And last night, for some reason, it was really heavy on CMIOs. It was really interesting. We cap it to about 25 people, and probably 15 of the 25 were CMIOs from around the country. And I think and even the CMO from Epic was here. And I think everyone now is like, yeah, just like you all as physicians are talking about, yeah, is definitely is here and is going to be very helpful. But your question is like, to what extent? And I've been sort of on the radical edge that I think, and I think it's going to be actually a very positive thing for primary care clinicians who today do more chore than core. A lot of their work is administrative, and AI can help them. So if there's a panel, like I can speak to it in terms of panel size. If like a typical PCP, and it depends on where they're working or being independent, but let's just say it's 2,500 patients. I think it could easily be 10,000 patients. And just like we brought in, physician extenders, whether it's a MA or LPN or RN or DNP or NP, I think we're going to have the AI, right, equivalent to take on those tasks that don't require people super smart like you all, so well trained and smart, and then they can focus. And like Isha was saying, on the kind of like the empathetic side and on the personal side, and for those people that going through stuff and need that touch. But for a lot of primary care, we all know you don't need a touch, and you don't want to be touched. And there's all sorts of stat, right? Almost every day, I can't even keep up with it, right? It's hard to keep up with, but almost every day there's a new study out or new paper. And someone's just talking about how, especially the newer generations, they don't want to come in. They just want convenience, and they don't want that long-term Marcus Welby relationship. I had it with, it was funny. One of the CMIOs here last night, and I'll finish with this. One of the clinical experts that was here last night, he's kind of runs the Apple Hospital. They don't officially call it the Apple Hospital, but that's what it is, as part of Emory. And his dad was my PCP, and he was the PCP for all my kids, as we were growing up in Cleveland when I did my tenure at University Hospitals. And I love that. It's like everyone's going. My wife's going to Dr. Kikano. We're all going to Dr. Kikano, and we had this relationship. He knew my family, and we replicated the same model at Texas. But my kids, they don't want that. They're not interested in that. They just want, I just need this. So long-winded answer, but I wanted to give some color to your question. I think we are definitely moving, absolutely moving. And you've heard me say it before, and I'm probably update these percentages at some point soon. And that 65% of patients, because there'll always be 35% that love the traditional way, 65% of patients will receive 85% of their primary care through AI agents.
Well, I think the question that anybody, any career, could ask themselves is not, is AI coming? Is AI going to take over some of our roles? It's more like, what do we as humans have to offer that's unique to us, right? And so I think about it from my clinical experience. And yes, AI can come in and do 80% of the tasks maybe that I can do. But can an AI have that empathy where parent to parent can look, that family in the eye and say, I know how it feels to have a sick kid. And this is what I would do having a kid myself and having been in that situation. Those are the things that are so uniquely human that I think the question is more like, what can humans do that AI can't do? Not is AI coming? There is going to be an AI physician, but what's the most appropriate role for that AI physician? And what's the most appropriate role for the human physician? And I think it's not so much resisting the advancement of the technology.
Yeah.
It's just, how are we unique and how is the AI unique?
Yeah, so let me toss in a couple of things. First of all, Ed, you are dating yourself by talking about Marcus Welby, MD. Right? And I actually say that because I remember Marcus Welby. And actually, I had a business school professor who talked about Marcus Welby, and I think it's important because you look at Marcus Welby. A lot of people grew up with Marcus Welby, Dr. Welby, and there were several things that were important about Marcus Welby. He had as much time as he wanted with every single patient. Right? Virtually all the patients got better, and then they never talked about billing, right? And so you right, and so we, like a lot of the people in the United States, grew up with Dr. Welby out there with those three factors in there, and it affects our consciousness and how we have expectations about our healthcare system. So, I think about, that stat, 65% of people will have 85% of their work being done, or healthcare delivered by an AI. I think the way I look at it is that AI will be involved in there. And I think, going back to you said, some of the stuff that goes on that providers need to work on and spend time on, right? Whether it's the documentation aspect, it's all the billing aspect, it's that all the portal and inbox messaging that goes on. I think a lot of that work can be augmented through AI and removed through AI. The fighting of insurance denials, the prior authorizations, filling out forms, that kind of work, and AI should be able to take over. And to me, virtually every single provider that I know of will embrace that. I think we all want to get less, of that paperwork involved. We want to be able to make sure that we can render care as quickly as we can under the right circumstances. We'll embrace those kinds of things. But then I start thinking about the other aspects of AI. I mean, everybody's got, a smartwatch, a wearable, that whole notion of being able to check in and watch patients in some way to monitor them for problems they may not have, or to monitor the problems they've got. And I think that those are opportunities that you have right now with the AI. That the hard part is trying to figure out, who do you monitor? How do you monitor? I mean, if somebody comes up, and the first wearable was, of course, the Fitbit, and everybody's like, oh, you're going to be using Fitbit data. I keep thinking to myself, when I was at the Cleveland Clinic, I had 2,300 patients in my panel. I didn't have any kind of tool that said this patient has stopped walking for the last week. Should I check in with that patient? There's no tool out there that said this patient is up they're walking, and I should call them and congratulate them. There's no tool out there. And the question always becomes, how could AI help out to find those patients that either need help, need encouragement, need our care team to be involved? And let's think about all of those wearables and intelligence that's out there. What do we do? That's where I think AI can augment the work of that care team and the panels that we've got.
So love that. Basically, the terminology itself, that the roles and responsibilities are going to change in the age of AI. Going back to the taxi example, I mean, the yellow cabs basically got out their own app and then basically became Uber plus the yellow cab. So quote unquote, they are essentially a little better than Uber because you can use them as traditional yellow cabs and then also use them as, Uber as well. So what we are seeing right now is exactly what Isha said, is, hey, Harvey, that's our another bestie. Where are you? Are you in a hallway?
I'm in Austin, Texas. I stepped out from a board meeting. We're going to start again. So I figured I'd come in and hang out with you guys. Good to see everybody.
Awesome. Good to see you. I'm assuming you already know Alan.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all of you guys know each other. So we were actually having a discussion about AI physician replacement, and there's a new study by Neil Khosla, who's Vinod Khosla's son, and they're betting big on AI physician. of course, in muddled way, but we know what they're saying. They're saying what we all know actually. Anyways, so that's where the work definition and the work protocol changes, and that's actually has always been. And what Alan says is that my relationship with technology, right, was through a ventilator, through an IV infusion pump, through breathtaking machines, which was in house as an ICU physician, and now my role with technology is also changing with the relationship with a Fitbit or an Apple Watch. By the way, feel free to sponsor this podcast. What I'm saying is that is exactly, you're right. So not only our roles are changing, our relationships of technology are changing, and I completely 100% agree with Isha, Alan, and Ed. But again, as Ed suggested, I'm going to put that again: 65% of people will get 85% of their healthcare from agents. And let's put a timeline on it. So, Alan, I first of all, I actually think that 65% of people is going to be more, especially as you know, Utah, number one, actually has allowed medication refills through AI. So that's insane, right? I mean, if you really thought that, okay, empathy is one part, but pediatrics is one thing, obstetrics is one thing, but regular Gen Z do not want to even see a physician and just want to chat with someone and get their fucking prescription. Now we're looking at this. So number one, what do you think is the timeline going to be? Because we are seeing, like, officially state level legislation that is allowing AI to prescribe, although it's renewal and it's very limited, but at the end of the day, it is a prescription authority given to a computer as compared to me, which is, again, I'm not a drug dealer. I just want to clarify that, because I'm not a prescription pest dispenser, but do you understand what I'm trying to say? It's just that's where the problem comes in from a physician perspective. I'm just saying out loud in terms of how people perceive these things as well. So I'm going to start with Alan. This is the prediction. And I think it is actually a safer prediction. I think it's going to be more aggressive. But having said that, timeline, and do you agree, disagree? Do you think this should be more aggressive, a little bit more, less aggressive?
So the answer is complicated. In a lot of states have laws about being able to do refills and other types of medical decisions. And a decision to refill a medication is a medical decision where somebody's deciding to re-prescribe. It's not just refill. It's I'm going to prescribe a medication and continuing it along. That is a medical decision. And so there are a number of states out there when it comes to refill protocols that have laws and monitoring in place. And I happen to know that, having dealt with this whole notion of doing refill protocols through MAs, through medical assistants. I know of one system that had a refill protocol that said, from a medical assistant point of view, that you were allowed to refill any medication as long as it wasn't antibiotics and pain medications. And I could tell you, when they finally did an analysis of it, 25% of the refills were pain medications and antibiotics, exactly what they were trying to avoid. So I worry, because there's a number of different medical boards out there that have actually taken away prescription authority from providers, who have done stuff like they'll leave on vacation and they'll sign a bunch of prescription pads and give them to their staff to just refill, right? And that's the kind of thing that you're thinking an AI is going to do this, right? At the same time, I'm less concerned about an AI, because if you can create certain protocols, the patient has decently controlled blood pressure, they want their blood pressure meds refilled, and their electrolytes are fine. I think about those protocols that are out there that an AI can help make that decision. I think there's great opportunity to put those forth in AI, but there are a lot of legal loopholes or legal challenges out there. Utah is unique because of the way that their laws are constructed to allow this to happen. It's going to take several years for the other organizations, other states to come on board.
So is somebody's medical license attached to the prescription, though? Because that's where it gets very tricky to me. Yes, protocols generally work, but sometimes they don't. Every once in a while, something, there can be an error. So then what's the liability? What's the responsibility? Who owns that?
Yeah.
Who takes
It's
ownership of
called
that?
scapegoat in the loop. So the doctor is a
Right.
scapegoat, and
There's
then
still
that's the.
somebody on the line for it who doesn't even
Oh yeah,
know.
it's the doctor that has the license, and we have 5 milliseconds to make that decision. So are we really making that decision? So that's why I jokingly say it's the scapegoat in the loop.
Here's my shoulder. Why don't you put a gun over here and fire someone? So that's really the goal over here is essentially. Alan, you missed it. 2029 by Ed. What do you think with that prediction? 2029 is 2 years away, 3 years away. You think sooner or later?
I think that's probably a good estimate. Let's see what comes out of the Utah pilot of all this and see how other states respond. But I think it's coming. Now that's different though. A refill protocol is vastly different than prescribing a brand new medication for a problem, right? And that's the whole notion of having like an autonomous AI. It's one thing to, call up an AI and say, I've got a snotty nose. I think it's a science effect to give me antibiotics versus, I've got brand new hypertension. I need meds, give it to me. Right. And I think there's a lot that's riding on this entire process as we move forward. A lot of details to work out.
Harvey, I know you are looking at the international picture on top of the local picture. What are your thoughts on this prediction and the timeline?
I think progressive countries like Singapore, the UAE, nations like that, for sure in the next 5 years. US, I'm still waiting for that case that's going to hit in the next 12 months where not using AI is going to cause liability, and that's going to send a ripple effect throughout all the hospital systems. And then at that point, maybe Ed will be right.
So that's very interesting. Like US really needs a push through, legally speaking, to actually get innovation even done. That's really odd.
Well, think about it. That's
But it's
how
a very
history is,
accurate
right?
assessment.
There's usually some big legal case that changes the culture and revolutionizes and disrupts. People don't want to let go of power. And then the other part of this is age, right? Certain individuals, not to stereotype, will accept AI and some others won't. And when the other population's in power, then they're going to make some changes and radical changes.
But here's the counter argument there, right? What happens if you disagree with the AI, right? And you're correct or the AI is wrong. I happen to know of some systems out there, by the way, that have tried AIs to help predict sepsis. And I literally know of a case where, the AI didn't show the patient was septic, but the patient was clearly septic. It was absolutely there. The AI just misfired. And I actually know of the case where literally providers were like, well, the AI didn't tell me it was sepsis. So at what point do we defer all our decision making to an AI rather than having good clinical judgment? And I think there's going to have to be some aspect of, give and take as we figure this out.
Well, the big picture there is education. You and I are older. We have our clinical gestalt. We know we can call bullshit on AI. But the younger population, unfortunately, it sounds so real. They think it's the gold standard, and they don't have that clinical gestalt, and they don't know what they don't know, and they don't have the gray hairs that we do that have given us that experience that can trump the AI. With that said, as the AI gets better and you and I are inputting it and putting our clinical gestalt and helping, then we'll be better. But I think the main goal here is that we need to teach our younger population and know when to use it and when not to use it.
Yeah. Agreed. It's actually interesting that I think you made fun of my gray hair. I like to say that my gray hair came from, that I didn't have any gray hair until I got married and had a daughter, and so it's all their fault. All right, and so just want to let you know.
Well, I'm catching up, man. It's all here.
We're going to open up another can of worms, which brings us to the question that Isha said. Isha said, and I completely agree with the pediatric, but let's just flip the script. Here's Harvey. he's only 25 because of AI helping him become more smart, more sexy, everything. You have no idea. Like, he literally, one of these days we're going to have a podcast just on Harvey, that how he uses AI to improve his personal health. And of course, we're going to bring Simran, Ed's wife, one day to talk about peptides, their future, and then how AI is going to be involved in not pharmaceutical, but nutraceuticals, which is, again, a big sort of important stuff. But Isha's brought up a very important point about empathy. And that's exactly, by the way, Ed, my younger brother is 18 years younger than me. I sent him the study and he said, yeah, ChatGPT is better at this, ChatGPT is better at this. You guys suck. And it really hurts me inside, but that's it. I mean, the guy who's Gen Z is like, and my dad is calling me, oh, can you send a nurse practitioner at home because I need face-to-face time? And can you make sure that this stupid, phone tree doesn't, so he's frustrated. Again, I completely agree, Ed, what you're saying. Inside my own family, I'm seeing that, 3 generations moving this forward. But Isha, well, one of the things that we have noticed is through chatbot, we can fake empathy much better. And let's just be honest. I mean, I wish I had the clip. There's a favorite show called Mentalist. I don't know if you love it, but anyways, one of the things that he said, Patrick, was that this woman does not have that eerie, distant feeling of a physician. Actually, it was noted that physicians are technically more distant as compared to empathy. And as a matter of fact, there's been studies that physicians are lack of time. Just that's very simple. I mean, I have to see 30 patients a day. It's just impossible. But more importantly, empathy can be faked through chatbots much better. And just think about how the video is going. At some point in time, video-based AI avatars are going to be doing that. But anyways, so step one, what do you think that future would look like when you have a avatar of Dr. Mannering essentially coaching 1,000 patients a day as compared to 10 that you can get to? That's number one question. And number two, of course, Ed's prediction, and then your thoughts. Isha, can you hear me?
Well, so that's not real empathy, though. It's like feigned empathy. So the smart thing is, we are so bogged down with administrative stuff. But I love Alan's philosophy of, why don't we take the administrative stuff away by AI, or like get rid of some of that work, so that we can have that true empathy. Because I think on some level, we feel it deep down. Like when you have a sick kid, a really sick kid, you want somebody to look you in the eye who understands how you feel. Like, and a chatbot can certainly recreate that to some degree, but they cannot connect in the same way. I don't believe they can connect in the same way. They can get close, and for maybe 95% of things, they can get close. But then there's that human connection that does come from shared experience that an AI can mimic very well, but it's not genuine. And so I think to say that we can completely replace the genuine empathy, I don't know if that's possible. I mean, I think the quality of it goes down. And I get the convenience. I also love convenience. And I get why this generation, we're in an instant gratification culture. We want our care when we want it. We want it in our homes. We don't want to have to leave the house. We don't want to have to interact with too many people. We just want it when we want it. We want it on demand. And I get that. But there's got to be a way where we can, meet in the middle, where consumers or patients can get that convenience aspect. AI can help us get there, but there's also some human connection that no matter how good the bots get, it will never be genuine. A robot will never actually know what having a sick kid is.
I'm gonna challenge that one real quick. I know
I knew you were gonna challenge it. By the way, just to let you know, we live in the real world. Harvey lives in the Matrix. Okay, just to let everyone.
And here's why. My favorite phrase, guys, is we don't know what we don't know. Until someone calls us out and say, dude, you're freaking horrible. Your bedside manners. You're like, really? I think I'm amazing. But here's where I think the ambient scribe can really help us physicians. And I'll throw myself in there just to be humble and the honest truth of growing. The AI can hear our inflection in our voice, can extract over 100 emotions in our voice, can give us. I created a prototype just to test this theory, and I was able to get permission and all that, get recordings, and then give feedback to different physicians that were considered really good bedside manners. And they, guess what? They got even better because they didn't know that certain of the nouns that we're using, verbs and the pitch and voice was so different. And now they're doing better. And so my point is, yes, it can teach empathy because the human is going to be that human in the loop. And then the last part I want to say is by having this, you're able to have a subjective third party. If I'm biased and I don't like Janaid and I want to always give them bad reports, here's in theory an AI that can go be like, no, this is how I grade everybody the same.
So,
Well, I just have one counter. So,
Go ahead.
how many times during my day in clinic would I hear, "What would you do for your kid?" And an AI can be really good at answering that question, but everybody knows the AI doesn't really know what it feels like to have a kid. So, but that's just my pediatric experience, right? There's plenty of situations where that doesn't apply, and there's plenty of doctors who don't make the connection with their patients, and that, you know, and that's sad to me. But throughout, you know, my clinical career, so many times would I have to kind of get to that level with my patient. And I think, you know, an AI could answer that question, but it wouldn't be a real answer.
yeah, I'm going to agree with Isha on this. I mean, I think that the chatbots, the AIs, can simulate the empathy. They can simulate patience, right? And let's face it, they can do all the programming you want and seem like they are a very patient caregiver. And I think that goes back to, you look at the amount of work that providers have, you know, whether it's, you know, you're seeing 30 patients in a neurology, you know, clinic, which is crazy, right? Or you're seeing, you know, 30 patients in a pediatric clinic. It's a huge amount of work. And the amount of effort that all of us from a physician point of view have to deal with, the information is overwhelming. You know, forget all of the administrative stuff you've got to do. You're just trying to make decisions, and whether you can find the right information inside the EHR, or, you know, find the right test, or, you know, you're having that conversation with the patient and they leave out something crucial. The amount of energy that you have is limited throughout the course of the day. And there are lots of studies that show that by the end of the day, you're fatigued. You're fatigued, and when you're fatigued, you make the wrong decision. And there are studies that show that providers are more likely to give antibiotics out incorrectly at the end of the day, that they are less likely to advocate for screening tests at the end of the day. They're also less effective in getting patients to go to the screening test at the end of the day. It's the fatigue that sets in. And when you're fatigued, it's really hard to be empathetic. It is really hard to find the energy within yourself to, in some way, shape, or form, help the patient in the right way. And that fatigue is what we need to combat with all of the tools that we have available to us, whether it's EHR optimization, an AI tool to help, you know, take care of some of this administrative work that's out there. We need to combat fatigue so that providers can, in a very, you know, much better way than they can today, be empathetic right up front, spend the right amount of time with patients, create the kind of relationship that they need, and then also streamline the care. And I think that's where the AI tools are coming.
I'm gonna push back, but before I do, let me just ask Ed on the matrix of Harvey versus the humanity of Isha and Alan.
The Matrix.
If I had a sick kid, I'd go to Isha. But
How do you know I'm not an AI digital twin?
you couldn't. That's gonna be the big reveal at the end of the year. Don't spoil it. Isha's actually.
Sorry.
actually
You guys didn't hear that.
We are doing real human watermarking now.
I think
confirm.
You know, my argument has been that you need to be multimodal. This is like this is how I speak to hospitals. I can't talk about a solo practitioner, but even then, probably you have to be multimodal. I think you don't have to be, but I think the wise choice if you want to serve a diverse population is be multimodal. So hey, this is my AI. I use a lot of AI, and like that's why I say 65% of patients, because there'll always be the traditional patients, and there's some outliers, right? Young people that want that high touch. They don't want to deal with a machine, right? You get a lot of that feedback too, right? At some recent speeches at graduations, right? There, people are kind of booing these new college graduates, like AI, boo boo. So there's always going to be space for everyone. And so that's why I think you need to be multimodal. So it's like, hey, you want to do just virtual care, like traditional telemedicine and RPM, all that kind of stuff? We've got it. Come to us. Oh, you don't want to interact with anyone and you just want to use AI? No problem. We got it. Oh, you want to come in and talk longer, talk more? You got it. Because now as a clinician, I'm freed up because a lot of my patients have chosen AI. And so I'm using my AI physician extenders. I just think you should be multimodal. So that's and I'm trying to get like Simran with her practice.
Can I actually trademark that AI physician extenders? That's a very good one.
We'll put it in the notes so we trade.
So, I'm going to answer this and I'm going to tell you exactly. So first of all, you were right, Alan and Isha. One of the things that we did on Save Life AI, of course, we have the documentation and EHR integrations with multiple sources, EHR chat and everything. It's massive in terms of, not just creating documentation for clinical, because we believe in clinical, radiological, and pathology should come in, but we don't have the current capacity, which we are building one. And Radio View AI is essentially the same, but we actually did exactly what you're saying. We actually moved from documentation to dollars and essentially improving the dollar amount that you get through automated, completely connected RCM, which is AI based. It goes through the whole process of denial, classification, draft approval, everything, clinical documentation review, AI grounded medical coding, prior authorization, eligibility. This whole module is fully now done. Go guys, check it out. But I agree with you that the problems that you're talking about, the front office, the back office, the RCM, everything goes out, and Save Life AI now has a fully blown RCM module, which is going to take away the whole thing, not just the freaking documentation part, but also connecting it through and increasing overall your potential claims as well. But here's the thing: there's a YouTube channel, by the way. If you look forward, it's called AI Engineer, and yesterday there was a talk about avatars and how they're improving avatars in terms of movement, the facial expressions, and everything. And they went into essentially micro expression up to the level of micro expressions, because some of these things you don't understand. Like, this is my nuance. I like to do my hands like this. Ed likes to put a cap on. Harvey is like, and you, Isha, has your own mannerisms. So does Alan has something, and they are looking into this. And then just remember, in 3 years, what the video AI has achieved. It's insane overall. I don't know, people keep saying that the first video of, what was that actor eating spaghetti, and they actually make that a standard every year. They post with different models. Seed Dance 2.5 is now fully open source. I don't even have to go to Google as well. So my thought is that the shit is going so fast, so much better. I mean, they released Quinn 3.8 27B, which is better than Meta, all of this. So, and I'm using it on my own computer. It's just, my thought is that I agree that there's currently the word AI slop more operationally correct. But my feeling is it's going to be harder and harder for me to distinguish between fake empathy and real empathy. And first of all, I completely agree that you are 100% correct. I don't think so. They get better than me. There is a difference between real empathy if someone cares or not, right? Let's just be honest. That's fact of life. But my insane problem over here is that we are looking at a breakneck speed of things that are, for lack of a better word, I'm losing, the fight every day with AI. Because it's doing much more work. All my developers, I had to fire 60% of the company. I fired 3 more people, for God's sakes. What I'm trying to figure out is, like, really, my burn rate that started $50,000 a month is now, less than $24,000 a month. We are closing our, second round. But what I'm saying is that things are progressing so fast that, and I told you, it's very, very few times that I get nervous about this, because I mean, learning is my superpower, as I keep saying, but this is getting bad. So going back to now, you're reiterating the question, Alan, the speed of innovation in video, can that really mimic or maybe even surpass, which by the way, we know that, like radiology, there are places we have surpassed human. Even clinical documentations, clinical decision support, AI surpassed humans. Do you see ever that Harvey's and essentially my world of Matrix is going to surpass quote unquote human empathy at scale? Anyone or Alan is thinking. And he's fatigued right now. And that's another thing that I want to tell everyone, that he can get fatigued and my AI won't. I'm just sorry.
Big picture, I see this as there's different classifications. If you're going to your doctor for med refill and it's your normal high blood pressure and you're like, I don't really care. I just want the prescription. In fact, I don't even want to see my doctor. I just want my prescription. You're more likely to say, hey, the bot's fine. I don't mind. Now, if it's a diagnosis of cancer, life-threatening, something life-changing, you don't want a robot ever to say you that. My argument is you want to have the right physician, the right tools, the right physician to know when it's bullshit AI versus right AI, and to be able to find the latest therapies, to be able to go to my patient within 30 minutes and say, you know what, based on your genetics that I just drew, I know that this is the best protocol for your particular body type. Whereas someone that has 30 years of experience in oncology that doesn't have access to that type of technology, I don't think is a better doctor in that particular case. And so my whole argument, it's human plus AI, and not just any human, the right doctor that understands how to use these tools and then combines them to make them that amazing physician.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think it comes down to, again, like, what is the unique human aspect? Like, what can humans do that's unique? And that's what we need to kind of build up in ourselves, because that's important. That's an important thing. And it's kind of sad to me to think about a world where, like, people can't distinguish between human empathy and AI empathy. And it also brings up the transparency aspect of it. It's like we have to be transparent about when we're using AI, but are we going to start forgetting which one is the human and which one is not? I mean, these are all very real questions.
Ed is smiling and he has, sorry, go ahead, Ed.
No, I mean, this whole notion of, real empathy versus fake, we've been discussing this for 60 years. There was an MIT physician or lab that they created something called ELISA out there. And it was if you can look it up, and it was a green cathode ray tube, and people thought that it was a true psychiatrist, a psychoanalyst. I mean, they thought that was empathetic because of the way it works. So we've been discussing whether or not it's real empathy versus fake empathy for a long period of time. And it's hard for me to know whether or not there's ever going to be a true relationship that you'll have with an AI that can teach you something. It still comes down to me, what are we trying to solve? What are we going to improve outcomes? Are we going to reduce costs? And I'm still waiting for the data behind it. But I keep thinking about the fact that, forget the empathy, right? I can tell you that the conversations that I've had with patients have yielded better outcomes. I'm all for the refill protocols, but sometimes, having that conversation and there's a catch out there. There's something that they say that, I hate to say it, my spidey sense was tingling in there. And I go, all right, there's something else going on. And that something else has yielded better outcomes. I mean, just in that knowledge, in that ability to interpret, and you could probably teach an AI and the AI could interpret voice and do all these things, but you're talking about spending an incredible amount of time and effort to train AIs to do something when you got people that can do it already. And so I'm not certain we're ever going to get there. And I'm not sure what the cost is to develop these AIs. Less in my mind, cool stuff. Let's get rid of all the administrative burden. Let's take care of the fatigue that providers have in the healthcare system, and allow providers and their staff to develop better relationships with patients. That's where I think we need to go.
I love that completely. I'm gonna let Ed close this today's podcast. And then, Alan, we're going to bring you back, reschedule it for a complete discussion on just genetics. I need to learn from you on that. I would love your mentorship on understanding how it impacts physician behavior, patient behavior, and everything. So here I'll make sure we reschedule him. And that's where epigenetics and Harvey's digital twins with genetics come in, because we need to do one dedicated show on digital twin as well. So Ed, first of all, are you real or is that your avatar? And that's so that's the crux of the question now, right? And let's hear your thoughts.
Well, what amazing, Alan! Thank you so much for being with us. Yeah, we need to give Alan more time on the next episode, because he brings so much to the table. You know, going back to the whole empathy, and I'm huge into empathy, and I'm a huge people thing, and I love Isha for all the things that she said. I also I went to the medical school. The latest medical school, I think I've talked about this once before, is at ASU in Phoenix, and I was there a couple months ago checking out their lab, their innovation lab. This is their training room for the new docs that are coming in the cohort. And they showed us I forget what the right words are, but it's you think you're talking to a human, it's actually the clinician, it's not really human. So we're talking about empathy. Okay. So, but what it requires, right? If you're a human, you have to know so much. Like, can you know all the stuff? So we did this natural interaction, and we had this conversation with this patient, and we're trying to see like which is more empathetic. And I'll never forget it because it was around the time of the World Cup, and there was a lot of conversation going on back and forth. And the patient said, or the clinician said, picked up a nuance about her condition and how she couldn't concentrate, like look at a television for more than like 5 minutes without getting a headache type of thing. And so the clinician is like, yeah, and I know how much you love soccer because they had that in history. I know how much you love soccer, so it must be really frustrating right now with the World Cup because you really can't watch it. And she's like, yeah, would a human have picked that up and remembered from their H&P like a year ago that she was soccer and all that kind of stuff, and now is the World Cup, and that was such an empathetic moment, but it was AI. So yeah, it's a hard nut to crack. That's why I say multimodal. At least during the next 5 years, I think multimodal, and then I get the feeling that it'll be mostly AI. But back one last thing, Janae, really quick. Back to the Uber analogy, and you talked about like Waymo came out completely autonomous, and as we know, a lot of accidents at first, and now it's better than humans. And you talked about how then yellow cabs, like they could be the physicians, they adopted, and now they have their own like Uber-like app, and you can still wave them down. And now it just came in Dallas, and I experienced it in somewhere in Florida. There's Uber, like I forget what they're called, but it's a sub-brand of Uber that's kind of like super personal. These people are super personal people. I forget what it's called. It just came in Dallas. And it's the same price, but they did some sort of special deal with Uber. And I think it's going to be the same thing. There's going to be entrepreneurial clinicians or maybe health systems or, big group practices that are going to adopt that kind of model. So it's like being super, super empathetic, super, super personal, but still, delivering it in a way that customer wants.
With that note, as usual, highly wisdomous advice. Unfortunately, it's a never-ending continuing education for physicians. This is just a new tool, and we do need to, by Ed's word, become multimodal. Thank you so much. See you guys next week. We're going to bring Alan again. And again, very grateful, Alan, that you came. Thank you, everyone.
Glad to be here. Good seeing you, everyone.
Oh.